So we are glad that you're here with us this morning. My name is Megan Becker, and I'm the Director of Care Team Services here at Baylor. And we're going to talk to you today about some things that will be relevant to you, not just your student. And so we're glad to have you here with us. And I'm here with my colleague, Dr. Jim Marsh.
Well, it is good to be with you, and my name is Jim Marsh. I'm the Dean for Student Health and Wellness, and I'm also the Executive Director of the Counseling Center here. You know, Megan and I, we've talked about this a lot. You know, we both have, students who are seniors this year and graduate. So we have, these last 18 months, going back to the end of their junior year with COVID and how that ended, and then this entire year. I mean, we have lived that with you. We know what it's like. So we understand the hope, the excitement that everybody's feeling right now. We're all looking forward to our kids. Like, let's get moving. Let's get back on track, with life. So we're there with you. As we think about this transition, you're going to be making a transition, and your students are going to be making a transition. This will be a time for them where they're, just clarifying values, making new friends, learning to manage their time at a whole new level, right? And it's something about here at Baylor. We talk about calling, and we really believe in helping your students find a sense of calling. What is it? What is my purpose, in life? And we just believe that you as parents are uniquely qualified to help your students through this, right? I mean, you know them better than anyone. I've had parents over the years. It's kind of like, I've taken care of them for 18 years, and now I'm handing them off, right? And I'm like, wait, not so fast, right? Your work is not done yet. In fact, research would tell us that when families stay engaged with their student in college, there are two really good outcomes. One of those is that they make better grades, and the other is that they graduate at higher rates. So your work's not done quite yet.
So today we're going to talk about several different things. We're going to talk about shaping your own expectations. And we're going to talk about things that your students want you to know, things that you need to know about your students' first year, things that we want you to know. We're going to talk a little bit about the actual transition of saying goodbye to your student, and then it will be available after for questions and answers as you need it. But really, like Jim said, this is a huge transition for you guys. When I was in college and I went to orientation, we were all there kind of in a Waco Hall setting, right? And everyone is there and excited. I didn't go to Baylor. I went to school in East Texas, but everyone is there and excited, and he's like, okay, raise your hand if you were a quarterback of the football team. Raise your hand if you played baseball. Raise your hand if you were a choir. And everyone's like, so excited and happy about the fact of all the things that they did. And then he says into the microphone, nobody cares. And it was like, wah, wah. Like the whole room, I can remember the whole room got totally quiet. And so it's similar here, right? Like you have been a baseball mom, a choir dad, a theater mom, you have been the parent of an academic achiever, you have been, the dance mom, the cheerleading dad, whatever it is that your identity has been, it has typically been wrapped up in what your child has done over the last 18 years. 4 years, 18 years, and I'm not going to say that we don't care, because we do care about that, but those days are done, right? You are no longer the child of a cheerleader or a theater student or top 10% or any of that. You are now the parent of a college student, and so that means that they are their own person beginning to grow up. And so I had a dad yesterday say to me, my daughter was top 10%, 4.0 in the choir. He goes, I know, nobody cares, right? And I said, well, we do care, but it is an important thing for you to realize that now is your students' time to become their own person. And so the transition is really for you too. You are transitioning into being the parent of a college student. And so I say this every session, and don't be offended, but it's not about you anymore. It's about your student and them becoming who they were created to be. So So students need parents who are genuinely interested in what they're doing in college, who celebrate with them the opportunity of going to college, who recognize changes. You know, it really is our hope that the student you drop off in August of 2021 is completely different when you get them back in May of 2022. We want them to become different people and to grow and transform into more of who God created them to be, and we believe that they will do that here at Baylor. Your students want someone who will counsel with them when their plans don't work out. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Stay in touch and show interest in their lives. Students don't really appreciate parents who act as though they're losing something by going to college. It's a big deal. Like Jim said, we both have incoming freshmen, one here and one at a different school, but we're still losing something, right? We all are losing something, but your student doesn't need to hear about that. They don't need to hear about how sad you are that they're leaving and that you're going to have an empty nest now and what are you going to do? Talk to your husband or your wife or your friends about that. Don't talk to your student about how you feel like you're losing something. They want to know that you're genuinely interested, not disinterested in what they're doing, expecting them to stay the same. Like I said, this is a growing process for everybody, and they're going to change into a different person. Don't let them make decisions. If you don't let them make decisions, they will never learn how to make decisions, and we'll talk about that. Don't remind them how much it's costing you. We all know that we want to tell them that every single day, and so don't remind them of that. Again, talk to your friends about that. Do not visit too often or visit without calling. If you guys were in the student session yesterday, and JT, I don't know if he was there yesterday, and he talked about how his mom showed up every Saturday morning at 9 o'clock, and don't do that. He finally had to say, hey Mom, thanks for coming, but can we stop this? But it's the same thing. Just don't visit too often, and when you do, make sure you let them know that you're coming. So here you are in August of 2021 with everything and the kitchen sink on I-35 with 812 of your closest friends, and the construction. As much as we'd like the construction to be gone, it will not be. So here you are coming to move your child in, and really the thing that we want you to remember when you are doing this is to remember to celebrate with them all that this means. This is a huge deal. Like Jim said, they have had a really rough last 15 months, and their junior year was cut short, and then their senior year was all COVID related, and so here they are. So celebrate this with them. Celebrate the fact that they are getting to come to school at Baylor, and they're getting to move in and to begin their college experience.
All right, question. Does anyone know, right, how many days it is from now until moving? Oh, good. Somebody got it, right? And you get a prize. Normally, it's total denial in the room, right? So, and nobody seems to know how many days it is until moving. It's amazing. So it's right around 60 plus or minus a couple of days. Move-in is over a 5-day period. The first 3 days are going to be unassisted, and the last couple of days will be assisted. We can, talk about that a little bit more later. But I guarantee that your students know how many days are left, and they're probably like, hey, you can just drop me off now, and I'll just stay the rest of the summer. They're ready to go. But we want your student to get off to a great start. I really believe it's so important to get off to a great start. As I mentioned, I have a son that'll be starting college this fall, and something I say to him, I say, look, you've got to do 2 things this first semester, 2 things. You've got to find your people, and you've got to get off to a good start academically, right? So let's talk a little bit about some things that you can do to help them with that. Number 1 is they really need to know, and it'd be great for you to know, who their CL is. Now, there's a lot of code here at Baylor, right? But CL stands for Community Leader, and that's the student who lives there in the residence hall. And that student's job is to really help them make connection and get involved and get connected. So that's a person who's really important for them to know. And speaking of connection, I strongly recommend that your students stay here at Baylor, in Waco, on campus for the first several weekends. I mean, at least a month, right? Maybe 6 weeks, right? I mean, they really encourage them to stay here because it's here over the weekends, they're in the residence halls and all the things that are going on where they're going to really find their people, make their connection, find their community. We have lots of great churches here, and our students really find homes at those churches and a lot of connection there. And it's those first several weekends. All those churches are going to have those freshman programs and the lunches and the free donuts and all of that kind of stuff, right? Stay here over the weekend and really get connected. I've been working in the counseling center as a psychologist for over 20 years, and one of the things that we will see every year around October, late October, is we'll have students who they'll walk into the office and they feel lonely, they feel isolated, they feel disconnected, right? Now we can work on that, right? We can fix that. But what do I find almost every single time? What do you think? They went home every weekend, starting with the first weekend. I mean, I just write it down. That's usually what happens. So stay here, right, and get connected. I promise you, there is someone here, actually more than just a someone, there are several people here who are wanting to meet your student and they'll connect with. If they're here and they're present, they show up. One of the things about just being successful academically, it seems simple, and you're thinking this is exactly why I sent you to Baylor, but that's go to class, right? Now, especially in the first 5 weeks, research tells us that attendance, just showing up, just sitting in the chair, the first 5 weeks is a significant predictor of final grade. So again, it's getting off to that great start. And I want to say a little something about communication with your student. I realize that some of you will have 50 texts from your student by lunchtime. Some of you won't hear from them until the end of the day, right? There's a huge range here, right? But once you drop your student off, if they don't call you as much as you would like, when they do call, don't give them, the lecture, right, about how much they haven't called. Just make up your mind right now, you're going to let it go, right? Because I can promise you that at some point, your student will need you, right? They're going to need you at some point, and you want them to feel like they can call you without getting the lecture.
So, if you've paid attention to the world in the last, not the world, but things, in the last 4 to 5 years, Waco's become a little bit famous for Fixer Upper, Chip and Joanna, all of the things. And I'm not here to offer you any home decorating tips or anything like that. But sometimes the tendency for parents is to be like, oh my gosh, we're so glad you're going to college. Let's change your room to the media room or the craft room, or even worse, the younger sibling's bedroom. And so just making sure that you remember that your student is still a part of the family and still a part of the decisions that are happening at home, and nothing will erode their confidence any more than them coming home for the first time into their bedroom, which is now the media room or set up as something else for the family. And just making sure that that's one small example of the decisions that will continue to be made for the family, but just remembering that even though they're off at college, that they still want to be a part of those family decisions, especially the space that has been theirs for so many years. Another thing, another thing to remember is that it's going to be a lot of decision making for your student when they come to Baylor, right? They're going to have to start making decisions about what time to wake up, figuring out how to wake themselves up if they haven't learned how to do that yet. Where are they going to eat? Are they going to eat breakfast or are they not going to eat breakfast? Are they going to eat at Memorial or are they going to eat at Penland? Are they going to eat before they go to class? Or are they going to eat after they go to class? Or who are they going to eat? Are they going to eat lunch at the same place that they ate breakfast? Are they going to eat with the same people? Are they going to not wait for friends? Do they take a nap in the afternoon? Don't tell them to do that. Are they going to take a nap or are they not going to take a nap? Oh, and what time do we eat dinner? What time are the dining halls closed? Oh, and we have to do laundry. We have to figure out how to do our laundry. We have to figure out where to do our laundry. How long does it take? Do we leave our stuff in the washer? And those are the surface decisions, right? Those are just like the everyday functioning basic skills decisions. And so then you have the bigger decisions like, okay, I'm taking these classes and I'm not really liking this. What if I need to change my major? Or I'm feeling like maybe the friends that I'm starting to make aren't making the best choices. Or this person is not treating me kindly. Do I need to do something about that relationship? Or maybe there's stuff going on at home that they have to start making decisions about, right? And so remembering and recognizing that the decision making that they are doing is new every single day. And so when they call you and they say, I'm going to make this decision, and you think, oh my goodness, that's just not a great decision. Instead of being what has been in the past called helicopter parents, is now called bulldozer parents or snowplow parents for those of you who are from up north. We have the tendency when our students are trying to find their way sometimes to try and just bulldoze the way and make it as smooth as possible, right? And so we're no longer hovering. We like to just try and kind of pave the way. We have stepped in to pave the way because we don't like it when our students are in pain or when they make bad decisions or when things go wrong. But I'm here to tell you that part of the college experience and part of life experience is beginning to make their own decisions, and sometimes those will be wrong and not right, and that's okay. How many of us, you don't really have to raise your hand by the way, but how many of us have made a decision in our life that wasn't right? We can hopefully all raise our hands to know that that's a lesson that we've learned. And so as your student makes decisions that you might not agree with, walk alongside them through that and navigating that process. And they will make lots of decisions that you agree with and that are right, and you can celebrate those. But the last thing anybody wants when they call to tell you about something that's going on is to hear you say, I told you so. And so just being that person who they can process all these new decisions with, to support them and unconditionally love them through those decisions.
So I want to talk a bit about the fall semester as a whole. One of the things you need to know is that the fall semester, it just feels long. It will eventually feel long to your student. It feels long eventually to those of us who work here. And the reason is there aren't any breaks. Honestly, there just aren't any breaks in the fall semester. So probably after the first maybe couple of weeks, your student will have a quiz. Another big event is going to be Family Weekend, and that's September 24th and 25th. If you haven't made it back to Waco for a visit, that'd be a good time to come back and see your student. But somewhere there, around second or third week in September, your student is going to get their first major exam. They're going to have their first major grade. Now, my first grade in college was a 41. I made a 41 on a political science exam, and that was my first grade, right, that freshman year. Now, I had not made anything close to a 41 to that point in my life. I had to make a 98 and a 96 on the last two exams to make a C in a class. Now, that's a lot of work to make a C in a class. Now, hopefully none of your students will make a 41 or anywhere close to that. But if they do, you may have to have the conversation that my parents had with me, which was basically, hey Jim, you would not be there unless you could do the work, right? And that's the same thing that goes for every single student represented in this room. They would not be here unless they could do the work. Now, I had to make some adjustments, right? I had to make some adjustments to go from a 41 to a 96, right? I had to do some things differently. And I just believe that that's what the fall semester is about. It's about making adjustments. It's about figuring out how that semester works. It's about getting off to a good start. It's just really important. I would say, from my experience, that November is the hardest month of the entire academic year, right? It's that first semester. November is when all the papers, projects, assignments, everything comes due. If they stayed on top of it, they're in good shape. If they haven't stayed on top of it, totally, they're going to feel it. That's usually the most stressful month of the year. You just need to know that. As parents and family members, you just need to be aware of it. Great time for a care package. Just be supportive. during that time. The other thing I would say is we have great resources at Baylor. Hopefully you've been hearing about them, but great resources. And I think to myself, what other point in your life do you have all these people who they're training and they're paid to help you be successful, right? Except, when you're in college. And we have great resources. So encourage your students. Take advantage of these resources. The Success Center, the Writing Center, so many things that are here. And take advantage of them earlier rather than later, right? So there's so much more we can do in September than we can in November.
So sometimes, as a parent, you can read in between the lines and understand hidden messages that your students might be sending. So while this is a true story, you probably will get a text or an email similar to this from your student. Sometimes they might be calling you with some hidden messages, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but sometimes your student will call you and they will say, oh my gosh, this is the worst decision I ever made. Why did I decide to come to Baylor? My roommate is awful. She's not nice. She snores. She wears my clothes. The food at the dining halls is terrible. I can't stand the lasagna. I'm so tired of the lasagna. My professors are rude. They don't want to help me, and I have nowhere to study. And you're like, okay. And so you just listen, and you listen with the unconditional love that you normally give them, and you just let them talk. And then you might call back in 20 minutes and they're like, hey, how's it going? Oh my gosh, my roommate and I are getting along great. This is the best decision I've ever made. I love the food in the dining halls. I love studying in the library. My professors are awesome. I'm doing really great. This is awesome. And it is just like that. For those of you who are not rookies, you know that there's just sometimes an emotional roller coaster, and it can literally go within that time. And so, but the importance of that is to remember that sometimes they might call you with something other than the lasagna, right? And so it's important for you as a parent to listen and to talk to them when they call you about their roommate snoring and their lasagna, the lasagna in the dining halls. It's important for you to listen so that they know that you're available for the bigger, deeper, harder conversations. And sometimes it might be a hidden message, and it might be the message that they're struggling with anxiety or depression, or they're feeling lonely, or they're really having a hard time in their classes and they don't know what to do. And so remembering that it is important for you to be available for the lasagna conversation, but also for the real conversations about when things might be difficult and that they're struggling. And instead of you losing more sleep than you're already losing over your college student, we really want you to remember that there are people available here at Baylor who care deeply about your student and their experience. And so instead of feeling like when they do talk about those things that they're struggling with or that they're having a hard time with, instead of feeling like you have to hop in the car from San Antonio and come straight to Waco, or you have to get on a plane from California and come straight to Waco, remember that there are people here that are here to help catch your student. The counseling center is available 24 hours a day. The police department is available. I have folks on my team, we're all available 24 hours a day. There are people in the residence halls that are available 24 hours a day. So they will be cared for, and let us care for your student. I can say with 100% conviction that we do care about your student, and I'm not just saying that because I am a person who cares about them. So let us become the family for your student that they will need while they're here.
So I'm going to talk about just the end of the fall semester as we come into Thanksgiving, that week from the 22nd to the 26th. Good news, something has changed here at Baylor that we've never had during the time that I can recall here, and your students will have the whole week off. Normally it was just those last 3 days, but the students will be off that entire week. I think it's going to be just great, because they need a break. Remember, there's not really any breaks in the fall semester. That's a good break, because then they're going to come back and go into final exams. One thing you need to keep on your calendar, though, there in December, And some of you are thinking, I don't even know where my student is going to be living in the fall yet, right, this August. But come December, you need to probably have a conversation. Hey, have you thought about where you're going to live next year? Because the decision about where you live the next fall comes up in this December. I know that seems really early, but just have it on your radar and ask them a question about it. Most students do just fine on final exams, right? Hopefully they've kind of figured it out by the time they get there, but they do just fine. I find that the students who struggle, they tend to, the basics, they just don't take care of themselves, really. They don't eat well, right? They tend to, they might get sick or they're not sleeping well or something like that. So it's really just taking care of yourself. And we'll tell students this, and you can remind them, you are better off just skipping the all-nighter and just closing your books and getting plenty of rest. The first 4 hours that we sleep is a physically restorative rest, if you will. Starting at hour 5, you get something called REM sleep, and you get a little bit of it then. And REM is where we get all the good cognitive benefits from our sleep, right? Memory consolidation, everything you've read and studied gets consolidated in memory. That calculus problem that you were working on and it just couldn't quite figure it out, your brain keeps going, right? And it keeps working on it. Get a little bit in hour 5, a bigger chunk in hour 6, an even bigger chunk in hour 7, and then a big chunk of REM is in hour 8. So if you've always wondered why do we tell you to sleep 8 hours, there's the answer, so you can get all of that good REM sleep. Well, after you finish final exams, they're going to come home, and after they sleep a few days and get caught up on their rest and eat all that great food that you cook for them that they're looking forward to. We at this break, this Christmas break, I like to think of it as halftime, right? And what do you do at halftime, right? Thank you. What do you do at halftime, right? You think about what did we do well, right? Let's keep doing that. And then also, what kind of adjustments do we need to make? What kind of changes do we need to make? So I've got another question for you. Who here knows, or just willing to throw out a guess, of how many hours per week the average high school student studies? How many hours a week do you think the average high school student studies? Just throw it out there.
2,
3, 2, 4, 6, 5. You guys are right on it, right? So 5 hours a week. Average high school student studies 5 hours a week. So how many hours a week do they need to study, when they're at Baylor? What have you heard so far? It's probably more than 5, right? Yeah, it's going to be closer to 20, 25, depending on the difficulty. They've got that formula, for really hard classes. It's, it's going to be 3 hours for every hour in your class and that sort of thing. But it's closer to 20, 25 easily, right? Now, I will tell you that if you want to make a 41, study 5 hours a week. That's the formula. A formula for a 41 is 5 hours a week. A formula for those better grades is going to be 20, 25 hours a week. It's an adjustment. They're making that change. One of my favorite statistics, data points, is that 70% of today's college students believe that they're in the top 10% academically. So I don't know where your math skills are, but 70% believe that they're in the top 10% academically. I share that with you. It's just because this generation, it really started with millennials, right? And it's just kind of carried on to this generation, Gen Z, iGen, goes by some different names. They have really, really high expectations. I mean, they are really high, right? Part of your job as parents and family members is just to help them, be that voice of reason, help them be realistic about those expectations.
Just so you know, the reason I did not do the clicker a minute ago is because I was literally picturing Ellie coming home, picturing my daughter coming home in December, and what meals would I cook for her? Keep in mind, we've done this session 6 times, and so that's why I was literally like, oh, I'll make her bed perfect, So that's why I got distracted. And literally, I'm like thinking about her coming home. So sorry. That's why I didn't click the thing. Oh man. So now we transition to the spring semester. And the journey continues, but really the spring semester it's a bit of a shift. And it is, the fall semester has been all new experiences and everything has been new. And the spring semester kind of gives them an opportunity to look forward. Okay, we've got a semester under our belt. What are we going to do? What went well? Like Jim said, what went well? What didn't go well? What are we looking forward to? So part of Baylor's mission and vision is for your students to experience global education. And so just having that conversation, what do you want that to look like for your student? Do you want them to be involved in missions and service opportunities that Baylor has? We have a great study abroad program here at Baylor that is getting to resume their travel this fall. And so just having those conversations about the future. And we know that your student will become marketable, maybe more marketable in the workforce if they begin to expose themselves to a second language. That really is the world that we're living in. And so what does that look like, and what do they want that? Is that going to be a part of their spring semester or the semesters to come? What resources do they want to tap into that maybe they didn't use in the fall, but are there things that they think, okay, I really do need to go to the Success Center and figure out what I want to tap into, or I'd love to get involved. What does that look like? And then having conversations about work experience. Does your student want to start working in the Waco community to help get them experience related to their degree, or do they want to work on campus so they can be involved in that way? And we have a lot of opportunities for students here. I say that you all are paying a lot of money for your students to come here, and so take advantage of all of the opportunities that Baylor has. And then Waco also has some great opportunities for your students to learn and to be exposed to things that they might not have been exposed to before.
Just a quick overview of the spring semester. Very different from the fall semester. Spring semester goes by very quickly. It feels like about the time we return in January, we're here and it's summer. Part of that is we have a lot of breaks, right? And we will come back from Christmas break and we will celebrate the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and we'll have a short week there. And then once you get into sometime in March, we'll have a week off for spring break, and then we'll have the Friday and the Monday around Easter. So there's 2 4-day weeks, and then we have Dia a little bit later on, another 4-day week. So just a lot of 4-day weeks, and it goes by really quickly. Students think that Baylor has seen the error of their ways, and they worked me so hard in the fall semester, right? Then they didn't give me a break, and now they're giving me all of these breaks. Well, what I would say is, when those breaks come, students may want to go places, go home, do things. I would also encourage them to, maybe those would be a good time to catch up on the work and kind of stay on top of things, because it does tend to catch up with people toward the end of the spring semester. A few of the things just to think about that you might want to make a note on your calendar, ask your student about, are just some decisions, right? Summer school. Are they going to go to summer school here? Are they going to knock out a course or two back home at a community college? We want to keep on track with that 4-year graduation, right? That's what we all want. So maybe that's a conversation you'd have. We've talked a lot about internships, work experience. Be thinking about that. They're in January. Hey, have you thought about what you might do for the summer that's really tied to your career? So those are a few decisions you would want to make as you start the spring semester.
Okay, we like to share a couple of books, resources. This is a book that we think would be good for you to read. It's called The Stressed Years of Their Lives by Janet Hibbs and Anthony Rostain, and it's a helpful guide for overwhelmed parents and stressed out students for navigating the college years. And so again, remember, this is a resource for you, and this is something for you to learn and how to best support your student as they enter into the college years.
And this is a book that I recommend by Gene Twenge called iGen. She also wrote a book on millennials, and I just think it was a really good book. It's helped me in my role. So it helped me. There's a lot of things I pulled from it as a parent and helping my own kids. I want to say something about some of the resources that we have here. Particularly, I want to talk a little bit about the Counseling Center. I wouldn't be doing my job unless I made you aware of some of the resources that were here on campus. We're one of the offices that are available 24/7, along with the police department and a couple of others. So we do have a crisis line that students can call. Some of the other things I would share with you, if we go back to, I'll call it pre-COVID, it's probably the best estimate of some of our numbers. We had about 2,400 students who came to our office, and that's a little over 13%, of students who came to us seeking some sort of some help. We really think a little differently about counseling. Now, I think most of the time you hear the word counseling, and what comes to mind is that kind of one-on-one, the proverbial 50-minute hour. And we do a lot of that more traditional counseling. But we've also realized that that's high intensity, it's high engagement. Not every student wants or needs that. So we offer really a range. That they maybe just need a consultation with one of our staff members and connected to the right resource. They may want to join one of our 20-plus groups on a whole lot of issues that college students deal with, or maybe one of our workshops. Or there's just a lot of ways that we help students that's beyond kind of that traditional sort of way of thinking about counseling. The other thing that we've leaned into, right, is the telehealth space. In fact, this whole last year we did everything virtually, telebehavioral health, and we're going to keep that. So in addition to the in-person, we're going to have some telehealth options, which I think are going to be helpful for students as well.
And piggybacking on the Counseling Center and the services they provide, I'm going to talk a little bit about Care Team Services. So like I said, I'm the Director of Care Team Services, and our department really works with students who are in crisis and who are struggling with anxiety, depression, relationship issues, financial issues, and suicide ideation, and anything and everything in between. And so research shows that life outside the classroom really does greatly impact a student's life inside the classroom, and that kind of makes sense for us. And so what we have done is, over the time that we have been in existence, have created relationships all over campus. And so we know all about resources all over campus. And so if you think about it, you can think about the Counseling Center receives students in, and Care Team Services reaches out to students. And so when we reach out to students, that's exactly what we're doing, is offering resources to students to help them to be successful, because that is ultimately our goal. And so we have a referral system that faculty, staff, and students can refer students who might be struggling or who they know are having a hard time with anything. They can refer them to us, and then we will reach out to your student to help get them connected to the resources that we believe will help them to be successful. So then here we are at the end of the spring semester. They're back. So here they are coming back to you, and they have open arms and you have open arms. But again, just remembering that they will come back. Even if they don't want to, they will come back because the residence hall is closed. And they come back for, it might be 2 weeks before they go off to camp or to an internship, or come back here for summer school or something like that. But again, at the end of the spring semester, it's a good opportunity for you to welcome them and let them sleep for a few days and feed them the food that they want, but then to just really have a good conversation. Like, you did it, you finished your first year, what went well, what was difficult, what adjustments do we want to make, if any, and just remembering that that is where you are a part of the journey, is to be able to be that supportive family for them that receives them back after their first year. So switching to this summer, the summer of 2021, and some immediate conversations that might be helpful for you guys to have. So, have you had the conversation about graduation expectations? You know, they might be here at orientation and line camp and like, this is awesome, I can't wait to be here for 6 years. You know, and you're like, whoa, hold up a minute, you know, and so making sure you have those conversations. And then, what does acceptable achievement look like for you and your family, and what does that conversation look like? And then their career aspirations, you know, this is a big deal. This is a part of the bigger decisions that I talked about that they're going to be making. Maybe they went to the pre-law session yesterday and they thought, I don't know that I'm feeling that. Or maybe they went to the education session and they're thinking, I just don't know that I want to be in a classroom. Or, you know, just making sure you're giving opportunity for those conversations to happen so they feel the freedom to have those conversations, because sometimes I think we as parents get a little bit more worked up about that, wanting them to do a certain thing without considering what it is that they want to do. Campus organizations and leadership roles, what things have you learned about that you want them to get plugged into? You know, you've heard over and over, we have over 300 different student organizations here on campus, and so what is it that they're going to want to get plugged into? And the importance of having these conversations before is because then when they get here in August, they can be prepared instead of getting here in August and feeling like, oh my goodness, this is all too much. And then, do you have a contingency plan for success? And what I mean by that is that sometimes what you feel like is going to be their path changes, and that path doesn't go the way that they want it to go, like I said. And do you have a plan B or a plan C? And do you know the resources that you might need if that happens? And so just making sure you're having those conversations about what would happen if everything didn't go exactly as planned.
So as we wrap up, we're just going to talk about some transitions that are going to take place. And I just want to talk about one of those transitions and just tell you my own story whenever I went to college. I have a younger brother, so I was the oldest, and I was the first to go to college. And, you know, especially that last year in high school, you know, my parents had really worked at, you know, just as I was responsible, they gave me, you know, more and more independence, right? More and more autonomy. And it's a good strategy, you know, I recommend it. And so by the time I got to college, you know, I had really been just kind of managing at sort of a really independent level. Well, all of that, starting with day one, went right out the window for my mom, right? And starting with that first day, after they dropped me off, my mom called, just wanted to check on me, just see how I was doing, make sure everything was okay. And I thought, okay, you did just drop me off, but yeah, everything's good. And, you know, well, day one turned into day two, turned into day three, turned into week one, week two, week three. My mom would call every single day just to check on me, see how I was doing, make sure I was okay. Now, you got to understand, this was not like her at all. We just spent a year, right, of me being more and more independent. Well, you know, my roommates, they were like, you know, hey Jim, everything okay at home? You know, your mom is calling, you know, every single day, right? Just because they were having to answer the phone a lot. Well, I decided after about 3 weeks, I'd made some friends from another part of the state, and they had invited me to go to like a homecoming high school football game back at their hometown, you know, with all their other college friends who were going to come in. And I thought, you know, I'm an adult here. I'm independent. Can make my own decisions. I don't need to check in with anybody and let them know what I'm doing. And so I'm like, yeah, you know, let's go. So that Friday came, and around noon, we headed out, right? Went on this road trip. Well, you know, I didn't tell my mom, right? So what do you think she did? Same thing, right? She's been doing it for 3 weeks. She starts calling. Well, I'm going to fast forward. This is the actual stadium where I was, and it's halftime of the game. I don't know if you can see this. That upper right corner there is a concession stand, and I was there, and I was just below that. I can see it now, right where the concrete and the grass came together. I was there with all my friends from college and all of their friends who had come back from college. And I was thinking, this is it. I have arrived, finally. Well, about that time, you could hear this guy. And he's kind of coming, through the crowd there around the concession stand and yelling something. And as he gets closer, you can hear him say, "Jim Marsh, is there a Jim Marsh here? Your mother is on the phone." Well, all my friends are gone. They're scattered. And I make it over to this guy as quickly as I can, without trying to draw any more attention to myself. And I was like, "Hey, I'm here. Don't need to yell my name in public anymore." And he's like, "Your mom, right?" Well, my mom, somehow, to this day, I don't know how she did it, but down here at the bottom of the hill, right, that little block, cinder block building in the bottom left corner, was a bathroom. Cinder block bathroom, and it had a payphone hanging on the outside. And my mom had found the number of that payphone. This guy, he's minding his own business, right? He's really wishing right now he'd kept it that way. And it was ringing, and he picked it up. That was a long walk down that hill, I'm telling you. Because I'm thinking, what am I going to say to my mom? Because I knew well what I had done. Well, we had a great conversation. It was a really good conversation. We should have had it 3 weeks ago, to be honest. But when I talked to her, I was able to tell her, hey, this is what it's like when you call every day, right? Just to check on me, make sure I'm okay, right? Well, she was able to talk about what it was like for her. Now, again, this wasn't like her at all, but she was surprised at how anxious she was. It had caught her off guard, really, it caught her off guard. And she was having a harder time with it than she expected. Had a great conversation there on that payphone outside the bathroom wall, and we settled into a great rhythm after that. I'd call every weekend and check in, and I call my mom every single day now, right? That's the way it works. And here's a picture of me and my mom, right? And this is what we all want, right? We all want this lifelong relationship with our students, but a transition is coming up. Just be thinking about it. Maybe you want to have some conversations beforehand so that you don't find yourself in a situation like I found myself.
So now we're going to talk about the actual letting go and the actual time in August when you say goodbye. So I want you to picture what it will look like now, what it will look like in August when you are saying goodbye to your student. Are you going to be the parent who leaves them in their room with all the new bedding and the accessories, the new trash can and all of the things, in their cinder block room all by themselves, sitting on their bed with the new bedding and the new accessories, and the last picture you have of them is closing the door to their residence hall room and they're just sitting there by themselves? Or are you going to be the parent who says, okay, let's all go down to the parking garage and hug and say our goodbyes and go on our way? And the last picture you have of them is in the rearview mirror of them just waving all by themselves. And all you can see is them in the parking garage in your rearview mirror. Or are you going to be the kind of parent who says, go and have a great time and have a good experience. We've given you the roots that you need, and here, go and spread your wings and have a great time at Baylor and at Welcome Week, and now is your time to shine. Spoiler alert, number 3 is the choice that we really encourage. But really, this is something for you to start thinking about. I had a mom say yesterday, I really have pictured leaving her by herself in the room. And I was like, well, we don't have to do that. And so just what does that look like for you, and how are you going to say goodbye? And really encouraging them to go and to make their new friends and to be more of the person that they were created to be, and to go to Welcome Week and get plugged into all of those activities and with all of their new friends here at Baylor. And we are so thrilled to be able to catch them in August when they come and beyond. And so just think about those things. We're glad that you guys have been here. This is mine and Jim's contact information. And please feel free to contact either one of us should you need that at any moment.